Well, hi everyone, and welcome to this, where we're going to talk through how Proptech's changing things within real estate. Today we're going to talk about changing shifts, Saudi Arabia, and then the advantages you can actually take from tech. In terms of who we are, we're Proptech Connection. We support major real estate companies, large corporate venture capital funds, and some of the leading Proptechs in the world. And here's some of our stats here, so dealing with some of the largest players in the market. In terms of our process, this is what we've identified as the methodology and the process to actually have a successful adoption with real estate and tech. We'll maybe just skip that. Here, what we're looking at here is some of the key drivers in terms of real estate and Proptech. For us, there's a number of things which is actually changing how we use space, both in terms of how we live, how we build, how we consume and how we work. I think one of the things that we're looking at in terms of the impact on space and then tech is the migration of people across the world. 2 billion people will be moving into urbanized areas, so it has an impact on housing affordability, has an impact on construction, but also has an impact on how we design and build. Also, shifting interest rates is also a material factor in terms of what's happening to asset classes and whatnot. And then I think the third one is obviously AI's future role, but I'll come into that in more detail later. So we're just going to talk about fundamental shifts real quick. For us, there's a duration mismatch, there's an evolution of usage, and there's a conundrum. This here is Gen Z's consumption of social media. As you can see, digital personas are a new reality. Some of the kids that were utilized here were almost constantly on these social media platforms here. What this means is that you actually have a new digital risk within your assets and portfolio. What this is a word map of a normal Twitter trends. This one here is the 2 days prior to the fall of Silicon Valley Bank. Now, what it shows, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate that here, is the contagion effect of having digital within your assets and your portfolio is severe. So just to recap on SVB, they basically invested long and then had to pull out short. They collapsed in 2 days. Enron collapsed in 9 months. Olympus scandal was 18 months. This digital contagion and digital effect of new users of assets has material impact on your portfolio risk. So what you're seeing within real estate is you're seeing average lease sizes are falling, interest rates are going up, there's a move to market, but also real-time valuations, fractionalized ownership. And what this means is that you have to change how you build and design and sell and buy assets, because it's no longer just a set and forget. You have to be very flexible in terms of your construction. The next thing we'll look at here is just evolution of usage. I won't go through them all, but basically how we use space has changed. So pre-COVID, this is the US, 50% of your time was at home. Post-COVID, 62% at home. So you've changed fundamentally cities, you've changed fundamentally suburbs, which has a big impact on pricing. What we're looking at here is about, for the first time in history in retail, cinemas, entertainment, you have 6 users, 6 cohorts of generation. So you've got to design assets that for elderly, teenagers, and the millennials, and that's a very different composition that's ever been for the first time ever. What's also happening with younger consumers, and you've seen this in Saudi Arabia as well in terms of where it's taking things forward, is that focus on destination entertainment. So you're seeing that people demanding that, not just looking to shop and actually just consume, they're actually looking for elements where they can stay the night. There might be a water park there, and if you actually look at the composition of assets now within retail, there's a much greater skew towards entertainment rather than just F&B. What this means is, and I don't know why this is going this way, it was very nicely designed earlier, but what this means is the customer is now at the center. So you're seeing a shift within commercial and retail, where you're moving away from B2B, you're moving to B2C. So COVID was the catalyst, but now you have people trying to understand who's using their buildings, and a lot of that is through data. And what we're seeing is, for the first time ever, people are starting to question whether technology is a friend or foe. what all major real estate companies are trying to do is understand the users of the building now. The people that understand it, the most of the technology companies, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Samsung, they already know you. There's a lot of real estate companies trying to become technology companies, but what we haven't seen yet, and we think this will happen, is technology companies will become real estate companies. And then you'll see a very fundamental shift in terms of what Proptech means for how we use space. This one here is the conundrum. So ESG, everyone's been talking about it at great length. Here on the left is effectively energy per square meter. The light blue is the average today, so 160. With the use of tech, it's got down to 110. To get to net zero, you have to half it again. So the stats on the right are showing actually an occupier's cost. So if you own a building and you have to half the energy per square meter, which means you have to invest a lot of cash in infrastructure, but your occupier's main cost to your staff, your occupiers are more worried about user amenities rather than energy. So you have this quite a strong conflict that's happening within the use of tech and what tech to use, but also within assets. AI is the big buzzword that we're seeing at the moment. There's some key stats there, but you can see ChatGPT, 5 days, it got to 1 million users. It took Netflix 3.5 years. WhatsApp's processing 100 billion AI messages daily. And you're already starting to see productivity. 48 business users have replaced staff because of AI. 20 to 50 million jobs have been created through DALL-E. So the impact of AI is real. It's very real, and there's been some very quick wins. For us, South Korea will be one of the leaders in the space, as will Japan and Germany. It's primarily because they already have quite an entrenched robotics mentality due to their car construction and automobiles industries. But one of the key points to note here is South Korea has actually now started to build its own semiconductor processing. And that's very important if you're going to start having a digital strategy around your assets and your portfolio, is actually surety of these assets. In terms of what that means for real estate, I'm not going to dwell on this. This was designed a lot better, but it's now a bit squished. Ultimately, and each sector has its own kind of utilization where it's the main benefactor of AI. In terms of better experiences, if you look at some again like retail with those younger cohorts, haptic devices, and if you look at Apple's launch of Vision Pro, the impact that's going to have in terms of working and consuming will be quite fundamental. That ability to be much more real in terms of Teams meeting and whatnot. For us, though, I think it's a bit overstated. I'll maybe start here first. This is the launch of Excel in green. Orange is the number of bookkeepers. Blue is the number of accountants. So this was technology-enabled employment. So yes, obviously people lost jobs, but people retrained or repositioned as accountants or financial analysts. One of the big things about AI, especially in light of the ESG conversation, scope 1, 2, and 3, is CO2 emissions. ChatGPT uses the same electricity as 270,000 Danish people per month. To run one training model is the same as flying from New York to San Francisco 25 times. CO2. So you have all these people committing to ESG saying we're going to start doing AI. However, the CO2 impact is quite big. I think the other thing to kind of note here is people are saying, well, actually, we need less space because we're going to need less people to use AI. For us, that's not true, because actually what you're seeing is mid-level people actually positioned to more creative and strategic roles, which requires more space. So as an asset owner, an asset designer, an asset transactor, these are quite a lot of considerations to take. Saudi Arabia, some great things happening here, and we've done a report on it. I think the key points to kind of bring out is very young median age, very tech savvy. Vision 2030 is a great commitment, and obviously there's a number of giga projects from here as well. But what this does is it allows Saudi Arabia to position itself as one of the leading countries in the world at that vanguard of real estate and tech. So you're building from scratch. You don't have the retrospective problems that a lot of other countries have. you have significant capital, and you have a tech-enabled kind of vision. Those components, we think, will make you one of the leaders in the space in terms of real estate and tech. In terms of the Saudi Proptech scene, quite nascent. 2015 was 3, 2024 it's now 38. The current focus is on residential, but we think as the developments actually go through the life cycle, you'll start to see more focus on things like construction. You've obviously got the one with NEOM as well, autonomous. So your data and AI will be a more fundamental component. I won't dwell on this. You all know NEOM, but I think what's really important is you're moving away from smart cities to cognitive communities. AI at scale will position Saudi Arabia and data at the forefront. We've actually commissioned some work around construction, our advanced construction methods. We did this in partnership with RFF. Should you want to download some of the information that's there. Just a quick overview of Proptech. We're probably now at this part of the cycle where you have to start making decisions. It's not just all fun. It's now actually there's issues that are arising. But we think in the next couple of years, with partners like us, you can actually start to get to that ROI. In terms of where, again, data, I've mentioned. It's quite long in the day and everyone looks a bit tired, so I won't go into data too much, but that structured data capability and being able to leverage that will be fundamental to those that lead in the space. The other one is obviously optimizing arbitrage, which is basically who can buy and sell the best. Right, so you're seeing a lot of people get tech through operational savings, but also actually understanding where they can add the most value. This is just some stuff on strategies. The only point we're kind of making here is there's no homogeneous digital strategy. It's actually very bespoke to your portfolio, your location, and your assets. And if you look at, say, something like location-centric, that's downtown New York versus resilience, which is actually cost savings on the fringe of a city. So depending on where your assets are in your portfolio, it actually shapes what PropTech or digital strategy you'll be looking for. Just quickly, just to wrap up, in terms of what's next, we think there'll be the development of global brands. So we think that maybe the agencies, but we also think that, as I say, the tech companies will come in and that will actually facilitate further tech adoption. At the moment, it's quite fragmented. Precinct partnerships as well, the ability to actually leverage, and if you look at the giga projects in Saudi Arabia, that's effectively part the value generated from the tech is actually that ability to be able to control the whole life cycle in precinct. Just 4 key points. We think that whoever has the best digital experience and strategy will actually win the race in terms of real estate. The relationship between user and owner is now different. As I mentioned at the start, we think it is a B2C model now, not B2B. And understanding who your actual asset user is will be key to that. You are starting to see generational change. In Japan, for example, you have shopping malls that are only for elderly people. Hospitals, pharmacies, you have residential on top, only for elderly people. So that concept of mixed ages using assets has actually changed. So if you then start to extrapolate that down, you'll then start to have suburbs and fragments of cities that actually aimed at different generations. And you're kind of seeing that through the giga projects with some of the projects. And the final point is we are independent of the PTC. There's a lot of conflicted people out there pushing agendas. There's a lot of tech out there. And as I've said before, it's very bespoke to your need. And for us, it's about having an independent advisor like ourselves that can maybe support you in terms of that journey. So thank you for your time. It's been great to play in front of the crowd. But if you want to find out some more information here, please do take the QR codes, or my colleague Evo from the US and Stuart from Sydney as well. We're more happy to take some questions.